Jack Welker huffed as he squeezed his 5'7" frame through the maintenance shaft of Concordia Station. The damned designers clearly hadn't considered human proportions when building this behemoth of interstellar diplomacy. Then again, humans were pretty much an afterthought in galactic politics these days. "Welker, status report." Commander Hodges' voice crackled through his earpiece. "Still tracing that power fluctuation, sir," Jack replied, wiggling past a particularly tight junction. "Environmental controls in Sector 7 are dropping faster than our approval ratings with the Vaughn. Just fix it before the summit starts." "Kinai. Fiction. Last thing we need is 8-foot-tall draconian delegates complaining about the cold. Those lizards get cranky, and when they get cranky, trade agreements disappear." Jack rolled his eyes. Heaven forbid we inconvenience the mighty space dragons. "What was that, Welker?" "Nothing, sir. I'll have it sorted in 30. Jack continued his crawl through the station's innards, a labyrinth of pipes and conduits that kept the floating diplomatic marvel functioning. Outside these cramped passages, Concordia Station was a gleaming testament to interspecies cooperation. 12 miles of habitat rings, conference chambers, and cultural exchange centers where the galaxy's greatest powers gathered to bicker over resource rights and territorial claims. Humans, being the new kids on the galactic block, weren't exactly taken seriously. Just 50 years into faster-than-light travel, Earth had stumbled into a cosmic community that had been exchanging holiday cards for millennia. Most species regarded humans with the same enthusiasm one might show a puppy that had learned to use the toilet, mildly impressive but ultimately insignificant. Jack's toolkit bumped against a valve as he navigated a sharp turn. "Stupid oversized station built by stupid oversized aliens," he muttered. The truth was, humans were on the smaller side of the galactic average. The Vaughn stood 7 feet tall with exoskeletons that could withstand small arms fire. The Draconians were even larger, with tails that could crush steel. The Arcturians were more reasonably sized but had 6 arms, which Jack found personally offensive when he was struggling to reach a junction with his measly 2. His diagnostic tool beeped as he neared the source of the malfunction. The summit of 7 was set to begin in 3 hours, a gathering of the galaxy's most powerful species to discuss the Quartian energy crisis. Apparently, when an entire civilization powered their world with crystallized star fragments, they eventually ran out. Who knew? Jack's presence at this diplomatic showpiece was purely functional, a walking toolbox with opposable thumbs. The real players would be preening diplomats wearing their cultural equivalents of fancy suits, making grand speeches about cooperation, while quietly plotting to screw each other over natural resources. "Found you." Jack smiled as his scanner located the faulty power coupling. A simple fix, thank goodness. He'd be done and back to his quarters in time to catch the Lunar League finals. Just as he reached for his hydrospanner, the maintenance shaft shuddered. Emergency lights flashed red. Jack heard the distinctive whir of automatic doors sealing, followed by the hiss of pressure locks engaging. "Oh, you have got to be kidding me," he groaned as the floor panel beneath him slid open, dropping him unceremoniously into the room below. Jack tumbled through the air, limbs flailing like a cat dropped in a bathtub, before crashing onto something soft and indignant. "Remove this creature at once," bellowed a voice that seemed to originate somewhere above Jack's head, and possibly in another dimension. As Jack's vision cleared, he realized with mounting horror that he had landed directly in the lap of what appeared to be a massive crustacean diplomat. Its eye stalks quivered with rage, mandibles clicking furiously as 4 attendants rushed to extract the human from their dignitary's many jointed appendages. "I am so sorry," Jack stammered, trying to disentangle himself from what he now recognized as ceremonial seaweed garlands. There was a malfunction in the silence. The crustacean's translator amplified its fury to ear-splitting levels. The claw dominion of Hydra Secundus demands satisfaction for this outrage. Jack was unceremoniously hauled to his feet by 2 security drones. Looking around, he realized he had dropped directly into what must be a pre-summit reception. The room was filled with the galaxy's most important beings, all staring at him with various biological expressions of shock, amusement, or disgust. "It's just a human," came a dismissive voice from across the room. "Probably lost its way from the service tunnels. It's like vermin in the walls." The speaker stepped forward, a towering figure in gleaming black armor that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Ambassador Krull of the Vaughn Empire stood nearly 8 feet tall. His exoskeleton augmented with ceremonial battle plates that made him look like a walking tank with attitude problems. "Ambassador," Jack began, trying to sound more diplomatic than terrified, "I apologize for the interruption. There was a malfunction in the environmental systems, and I was—" "Save your explanations for someone who values them," Krull interrupted. "Humans. Always scurrying about, fixing things that break, because they lacked the intelligence to build them properly in the first place." Jack felt his face flush. The Vaughn Empire had been particularly vocal about humanity's premature inclusion in galactic affairs. According to them, humans were evolutionary teenagers who'd been given the keys to the car before they could be trusted not to crash it. "I'll just show myself out," Jack said, trying to sidle toward the nearest exit. "Wait." A slender, 6-armed figure stepped forward, her pale blue skin almost luminescent under the reception hall lights. "This human may be useful." Jack recognized her as an Arcturian. Mila was her name, if he remembered correctly. One of the few diplomats who actually bothered learning maintenance staff names. "The environmental controls are malfunctioning," she continued, addressing the room. "Perhaps we should allow him to complete his work rather than suffering through an uncomfortable summit." Krull's compound eyes narrowed, typical Arcturian sentimentality, always championing the lesser species. "It's not sentiment, it's practicality," Mila replied coolly. "Unlike the Vaughn, we prefer not to sweat through our ceremonial attire." A ripple of translated chuckles spread through the gathering. Jack noticed several species with temperature-sensitive physiologies nodding in agreement. Krull's mandibles clicked in what Jack had learned was the Vaughn equivalent of a sneer. "Very well. Let the human demonstrate its usefulness." He stepped closer to Jack, looming over him with deliberate intimidation. "Though I fail to see what value such diminutive creatures bring to our galactic community." Up close, Krull was even more imposing. His exoskeleton bore the marks of countless battles, and the ceremonial scarification that decorated his faceplates told stories of vanquished enemies. Next to him, Jack felt like a child at an adult table, physically outmatched in every conceivable way. "I'm just here to fix the cooling system, sir," Jack said, forcing himself not to step back, not start an interstellar incident. "Too late for that," growled the crustacean diplomat, still straightening his garlands. "Indeed," Krull agreed, his voice dropping to a dangerous purr that his translator rendered with perfect menace. "Tell me, human, what exactly makes your kind believe they belong among the stars with true powers like the Vaughn? Your bodies are fragile. Your lifespans are brief. You possess no natural defenses, no evolutionary advantages." The room had grown uncomfortably quiet. Jack was acutely aware that he had somehow become the impromptu representative of humanity in a room full of beings who could squash him like a bug, some of them literally, with specialized glands. "I'm just a maintenance technician," Jack said, trying to keep his voice steady. "Maybe you should save the species evaluation for Ambassador Sullivan when she arrives." "No, I think not," Krull said, beginning to circle Jack as if examining a peculiar specimen. "Sometimes the truest measure of a species can be found in its most ordinary examples. So tell me, Jack Welker of Earth, what makes you worth the oxygen you're breathing from my atmosphere supply?" Jack tensed. How did Krull know his name? The realization sent a chill down his spine. The Vaughn had been watching him, probably watching all the humans on board. This wasn't a random encounter, it was an orchestrated humiliation. "Ambassador," came a new voice from the entrance. "I see you've met my maintenance chief." Commander Hodge strode into the reception, his formal uniform a stark contrast to Jack's oil-stained coveralls. Though not physically imposing compared to the aliens, Hodge carried himself with the confidence of someone who had stared down hostile entities across multiple star systems. "Your pet escaped its enclosure," Krull replied, Perhaps you should keep it on a shorter leash. Hodge smiled, but Jack recognized the dangerous glint in his eye. Actually, I sent him. The environmental systems needed adjustment for our draconian friends. He nodded toward a group of massive reptilians who were indeed looking uncomfortably cold. Jack is one of our best. One of humanity's best. Kroll laughed, the sound like gravel in a garbage disposal. Then perhaps he wouldn't mind demonstrating these superior human qualities I've heard so much propaganda about. Propaganda? Commander Hodge maintained his diplomatic smile, but Jack could see his jaw tightening. I'm not sure what you mean, Ambassador. Kroll's compound eyes glittered with malicious intent. Your species broadcasts its so-called exceptional nature across every communication channel. The humans, the great innovators, the quick adapters, the unlikely survivors. He made a dismissive gesture with his armored claw. Yet when faced with true power, you appear remarkably underwhelming. The gathered diplomats shifted uncomfortably. Interspecies tensions weren't uncommon at these summits, but openly challenging a member race crossed several diplomatic lines. Then again, the Vaughn Empire had never been known for its subtlety. Perhaps, Mila interjected, all 6 arms raised in a placating gesture, we should return to preparations for the summit. The Quartian energy crisis affects us all, regardless of evolutionary background. No, Kroll's mandibles clicked decisively. I propose a demonstration. If humans are truly worthy of their seat at the galactic table, surely one human can prove it. He turned his armored head toward Jack. Even this one. Jack swallowed hard. This was escalating from embarrassing mishap to interstellar incident faster than he could say diplomatic immunity. Ambassador, Hodge warned, Technician Welker is not a diplomat. This is hardly appropriate. On the contrary, Kroll replied, your species claims that every human carries this spark of exceptional potential. Or is that merely convenient rhetoric? Jack felt every alien eye in the room turn toward him. Great. Somehow, he'd gone from fixing a faulty cooling system to defending humanity's galactic reputation. This was definitely not covered in his job description or his measly hazard pay. What exactly did you have in mind? Jack asked before Hodge could intervene again. Commander Hodge shot him a warning look that screamed shut up, but Jack stood his ground. Something about Kroll's dismissive attitude struck a nerve. Sure, humans might not have exoskeletons or acid spit or telepathy, but they weren't cosmic jokes either. Kroll seemed pleased by Jack's response. 3 challenges. Physical, mental, and innovative. He practically spat the last word. If you succeed, the Vaughn Empire will formally recognize humanity's contribution to the galactic community at tomorrow's summit. And if I fail? Jack asked, already knowing the answer. The Vaughn Empire will formally move to reclassify Earth as a protectorate development zone, rather than a sovereign member of the Galactic Concordat. A murmur ran through the assembled diplomats. This wasn't just a challenge, it was a political power play. If Earth lost its sovereign status, it would essentially become a colony world, subject to development oversight from more established species. Humanity would lose its independence faster than they'd gained it. Commander Hodge stepped forward. This is absurd. One maintenance technician cannot determine the fate of an entire species. Why not? Kroll countered. If humans are as exceptional as claimed, surely any random specimen should demonstrate these qualities. Or do these traits only manifest in your carefully selected diplomats and officials? Jack met Hodge's worried gaze and gave a slight nod. He knew he was being manipulated, used as a pawn in some larger political game. But he also recognized the trap Kroll had set. Refusing the challenge would only reinforce the Vaughn's narrative that humans were all talk and no action. I accept, Jack said, ignoring Hodge's groan of frustration. Kroll's mandibles clicked in what Jack recognized as the Vaughn equivalent of a satisfied smile. Excellent. We begin immediately. Actually, Mila interrupted, stepping forward with graceful authority. Protocol demands that any official challenge be properly documented and witnessed. All 6 of her arms were busy with datapads and ceremonial instruments. As the Arcturian representative, I volunteer to serve as neutral arbiter. Jack shot her a grateful look. She was buying time, and they both knew it. "The Arcturian's neutrality is noted," Kroll said, clearly irritated by the delay. "Very well. The challenges will begin in 1 standard hour in the central atrium. 3 tests to determine if humanity deserves its place among stars." As the reception broke up into buzzing clusters of diplomatic gossip, Commander Hodge pulled Jack aside, his face a storm of controlled fury. "What the hell were you thinking?" he hissed. "Do you realize what's at stake here?" "With all due respect, sir," Jack replied, watching Krull stride away with his entourage, "I don't think refusing would have changed his mind about humans." "This isn't about changing his mind. This is about not giving him ammunition to use against us at the summit." Hodge ran a hand through his grey hair. "Do you have any idea how long we've worked to be taken seriously by the galactic community?" "About 50 years, sir," Jack said. "And in those 50 years they've treated us like clever pets who accidentally figured out how to open the front door." Mila approached before Hodge could respond. "Your maintenance technician is correct, Commander," she said quietly. "The Vaughn have been building a coalition against newer species for months. This confrontation was inevitable." "But why Jack?" Hodge asked. "Why not challenge our ambassador?" "Because I'm expendable," Jack realized aloud. "If I fail, I'm just one unremarkable human. But if their ambassador failed, they'd have to acknowledge that even humanity's best wasn't good enough." Mila nodded, her large, almond-shaped eyes reflecting concern. "Krull has designed this situation to humiliate humanity either way. Refuse the challenge. Prove humans are cowards. Accept and fail. Prove humans are weak. The only path forward is to win," Jack finished, feeling a curious calm settle over him. Hodge looked between them, then sighed deeply. "You have 1 hour to prepare. Whatever Krull has planned, it won't be fair." "When has anything in the galaxy ever been fair to humans?" Jack asked with a wry smile. "We're used to playing against stacked odds." As Hodge walked away, muttering about filing incident reports until retirement, Mila turned all 4 of her eyes toward Jack. "You should know," she said softly, "there's a reason many species are wary of humans, despite your physical limitations." "Oh?" Jack raised an eyebrow. "And what's that?" Mila's translator hesitated, searching for the right words. "You're unpredictable. Most species evolve in patterns, follow evolutionary logic. Humans take irrational leaps. It makes the older races uncomfortable." Jack thought about this for a moment, then grinned. "Good." The central atrium of Concordia Station had been hastily converted into what looked like an alien game show set. A circular arena dominated the center, surrounded by tiered seating that was rapidly filling with curious diplomats, staff and security personnel. News of the impromptu human challenge had spread faster than a quantum virus through the station's communication network. Jack stood at one entrance, trying not to fidget as Commander Hodge gave him last-minute advice that sounded suspiciously like a eulogy. "Remember, this isn't just about you," Hodge said, straightening Jack's hastily cleaned uniform. "You're representing Earth now." "No pressure," Jack muttered. Across the arena, Krull was holding court with a group of clearly impressed diplomats, his exoskeleton gleaming under the atrium lights. The Vaughn ambassador occasionally glanced in Jack's direction, mandibles clicking in what could only be anticipation. Mila approached, all 6 arms occupied with various official-looking devices. "I've reviewed the challenge parameters," she said. "As neutral arbiter, I've ensured they meet minimal standards of survivability." "Minimal?" Jack repeated. "That's reassuring." "The first challenge is physical," she continued, ignoring his sarcasm. "The second mental. And the third," she hesitated. "The third is what the Vaughn call adaptive reasoning under duress." So, thinking while terrified, Jack translated. Essentially, Mila agreed. "I should warn you, the Vaughn designed these challenges to exploit human physiological weaknesses." Before Jack could ask for details, a resonant tone echoed through the atrium. The assembled crowd fell silent as Krull stepped into the center of the arena. Distinguished representatives of the galactic community, His translator boomed. Today we witness a demonstration of humanity's claimed exceptionalism through one of its average specimens. He gestured toward Jack with a dismissive claw. 3 challenges will determine if humans truly belong among the stars, or if they should return to their cradle world until properly evolved. Jack walked forward, keenly aware that he was the smallest sentient in the room. Next to Krull, he looked like a child challenging a tank to arm wrestling. The first challenge, Krull announced, is endurance. A section of the floor slid away, revealing what appeared to be 2 pedestals rising from below. Each was barely large enough for a being to stand on, surrounded by a ring of glowing energy. Each competitor will stand upon a gravity platform, Mila explained to the audience, her role as arbiter requiring impartiality. The gravity will increase incrementally until one competitor steps off or falls. Jack felt his stomach drop. Gravity resistance? The Vaughn evolved on a high-gravity world, their exoskeletons specifically adapted to withstand crushing pressure. This wasn't a fair contest, it was like challenging a fish to a swimming competition. Standard starting position. Mila instructed, gesturing to the platforms. Jack and Krull took their places, facing each other across the small gap between pedestals. Up close, the size difference was even more pronounced. Jack's eyes were level with the middle of Krull's armored thorax. Begin, Mila announced, activating the pedestals. Jack felt the gravity increase immediately, a gentle pressure that quickly intensified. 1.2 G, 1.5, 1.8. Krull stood motionless, his exoskeleton easily bearing the increasing pressure. Humans evolved in approximately 1 standard gravity unit, he commented casually. The Vaughn homeworld averages 3.2. This contest was over before it began. 2.1 G now, and Jack could feel his knees wanting to buckle. Sweat beaded on his forehead as his body strained against the invisible weight. The crowd watched in silence, many species clearly expecting the human to collapse at any moment. Maybe, Jack said through gritted teeth, but humans have something your species never needed to develop. And what, Krull asked as the gravity hit 2.5 G, would that be? Jack grinned, despite the pain shooting through his legs. Stubborn spite. 3 G now. Jack's vision began to blur at the edges, his lungs struggling to expand against the crushing pressure. All his training for low-gravity environments hadn't prepared him for this. His body wasn't built for it. Physically, he had already lost. But Jack Welker had spent his entire life being underestimated, short among humans, weaker than his peers, always picked last for sports teams. He'd learned that physical limitations could be overcome with sufficient determination and creative thinking. As the gravity increased to 3.5 G, Jack slowly, deliberately shifted his stance. Instead of standing straight like Krull, he gradually lowered his center of gravity, spreading his feet and bending his knees into a modified horse stance. The pressure was still agonizing, but distributed differently now. 4 G. Jack was practically crouching, while Krull remained standing tall, seemingly unaffected. The crowd had grown silent, watching the human's unorthodox approach with curiosity. Interesting technique, Krull commented, a note of surprise in his translated voice, but ultimately futile. Jack didn't waste energy responding. He focused entirely on breathing, on keeping his form, on not falling despite muscles screaming for relief. This wasn't about winning anymore. It was about lasting long enough to make a point. 5 G. Jack was now in a full squat, hands braced against the platform. His entire body trembled with the effort of remaining upright. Enough, Krull finally said, his voice tinged with something almost like respect. The human has demonstrated sufficient resilience for a lesser species. I declare this challenge complete. The gravity fields deactivated suddenly, causing Jack to nearly topple over as the pressure vanished. He straightened slowly, muscles quivering but pride intact. He hadn't won. But he hadn't broken either. The crowd's reaction was mixed, surprise from some species, dismissive clicks and whistles from others. Mila's expression remained carefully neutral, but Jack caught the slight nod of approval she gave him. The second challenge, Kroll announced after a brief recess that barely gave Jack time to catch his breath, is cognitive. Another section of the floor reconfigured, revealing what appeared to be two identical console stations. Each competitor will be presented with a series of logical problems, Mila explained. The difficulty will increase with each solved problem. The first to solve 15 problems wins. Jack approached his console cautiously. Mental challenges should theoretically be more even ground, but he suspected Kroll had another trick planned. Begin, Mila announced. The first problem appeared on Jack's screen, a simple pattern recognition test. He solved it quickly, only to be presented with a more complex version. By the fifth problem, they had evolved into multi-dimensional spatial reasoning challenges that required Jack to mentally rotate and manipulate complex geometrical structures. Across from him, Kroll worked with methodical precision, his compound eyes perfectly adapted for processing complex visual information simultaneously. The Vaughn's multiple brain ganglia could parallel process problems in ways human neurology couldn't match. By the eighth problem, Jack was falling behind. The challenges now involved predictive algorithms and quantum state calculations that strained the limits of his technical education. Kroll was already on problem 12, mandibles clicking in satisfaction. The crowd had begun murmuring again, clearly expecting another human defeat. Commander Hodge watched with a grim expression, while Mila monitored both competitors with professional detachment. Jack stared at the current problem, a hyperdimensional traffic routing optimization across multiple potential quantum states. It would take minutes to solve conventionally, by which time Kroll would have finished all 15. Then Jack remembered something from his academy days, Professor Kapoor's famous lecture on human cognitive advantages. When you can't out-calculate, out-think. When you can't out-process, change the parameters. Jack smiled and looked up from his console. Hey, quick question, he called to Mila. The rules specify we need to solve 15 problems, right? Not specifically these 15 problems. Mila consulted her rule set datapad. The challenge requires 15 correct solutions to problems of increasing difficulty. Great, Jack said, and promptly skipped the current problem. The console protested briefly before generating a new, similarly difficult problem. Jack skipped that one too. And the next, and the next. Stay. The console, programmed to provide increasingly difficult problems, eventually cycled back to lower difficulty levels. Jack quickly solved these simpler problems, racking up correct answers while Kroll methodically worked through the original sequence. The crowd buzzed with surprise as Jack's tally of solved problems rapidly increased. Kroll, noticing the commotion, looked up from his console in confusion. What is the meaning of this? He demanded as Jack's counter hit 14 solved problems. Creative problem solving, Jack replied, completing his 15th solution with a flourish. A human specialty. Mila checked the console logs carefully before announcing, the human has successfully completed 15 problems. The second challenge goes to Earth. For the first time, Jack saw the assembled diplomats looking at him with something besides pity or amusement. Some appeared thoughtful, others concerned, and a few, particularly the Arcturians and surprisingly the Draconians, seemed almost impressed. Kroll's exoskeleton flushed a deep red, a sign of Vaughn anger. This was not the intended approach to the challenge. You designed a test of cognitive ability, Mila replied calmly. The human demonstrated an alternative cognitive pathway to success. The rules did not specify methodology. As the crowd discussed this unexpected turn of events, Jack caught fragments of translated conversations. Typical human lateral thinking. Precisely why they're dangerous. Unpredictable problem solving. For the first time, Jack understood what Mila had meant earlier. It wasn't human strength or intelligence that made other species wary, it was their unconventional approaches, their willingness to ignore established patterns and create new solutions on the fly. Kroll stepped closer to Jack, lowering his voice. Your tricks won't help you in the final challenge, human. The test of innovation under duress will prove once and for all that your kind doesn't belong among real civilizations. Despite his exhaustion, Jack met Kroll's compound gaze steadily. We'll see about that. Ambassador. After all, humans are just full of surprises. The atrium had grown even more crowded for the final challenge. Word had spread throughout Concordia Station, drawing species Jack hadn't even seen before. Apparently, watching a human potentially humiliate himself was premium entertainment in the galactic community. Mila approached Jack during the brief intermission, offering him a container of water. "You should hydrate," she said. Her 4 eyes blinking in what he'd learned was an Arcturian expression of concern. "The final challenge will be difficult. More difficult than having my molecules crushed or solving quantum math problems?" Jack asked, gratefully accepting the water. "The Vaughn consider this their specialty challenge," she replied quietly. "Innovation, under duress, tests a species' ability to adapt to unexpected threats. It's how they judge evolutionary fitness." Jack emptied the water container, trying to ignore the growing knot in his stomach. "Any hints on what I'll be facing?" "That would violate my neutrality," Mila said, then hesitated. After glancing around to ensure they weren't overheard, she added, "The Vaughn believe true innovation only emerges in survival situations. Consider that their definition of duress is probably more extreme than yours." Before Jack could ask for clarification, the announcement tone sounded again. The arena floor reconfigured one final time, the center depressing to form a circular pit about 20 feet across and 10 feet deep. Krull strode to the edge, his exoskeleton now adorned with additional ceremonial plates that made him look even more imposing. "The final challenge," he announced, "will determine if humans possess true adaptive intelligence." Jack approached cautiously, peering down into the pit. It appeared empty except for 2 small platforms on opposite sides. "The rules are simple," Krull continued. "Both competitors will enter the chamber. A succession of environmental hazards will be introduced. The first to reach the safety platform on the opposite side wins. If both fail, neither species gains standing." Commander Hodge stepped forward. "What kind of environmental hazards are we talking about here?" "Nothing lethal," Mila assured him, consulting her datapad, "merely intensely uncomfortable." "That's not exactly reassuring," Jack muttered. As if reading his thoughts, Krull turned to address him directly. "A worried human? Perhaps now would be a good time to withdraw. There's no shame in acknowledging evolutionary inferiority." Jack glanced around at the gathered diplomats. Many watched with scientific curiosity, some with disdain, a few with what might have been concern. Commander Hodge gave him a slight nod, permission to back out if needed. But backing out wouldn't change anything. The Vaughn would still push for Earth's reclassification, still treat humans as cosmic accidents unworthy of respect. Sometimes you had to stand your ground, even when standing looked a lot like falling into an alien pit of doom. "Let's get this over with," Jack said, stepping onto the access ramp. Krull followed, taking position on the platform opposite Jack's. The arena shields activated, creating a transparent barrier between the pit and the spectators. "Begin on the signal," Mila announced, raising all 6 arms. A tone sounded, and immediately the pit floor began to glow red, heating rapidly. Jack felt the temperature rising through his boots. Within seconds, it would be hot enough to cause serious burns. Krull seemed entirely unaffected, his exoskeleton designed to withstand extreme temperature variations. He stepped casually off his platform and began walking confidently across the heating floor. Jack quickly assessed his options. The floor was already too hot for direct contact. Jumping the distance wasn't possible. His uniform offered minimal protection at best. What would a human do? As the platform beneath him began to heat uncomfortably, Jack quickly stripped off his maintenance jacket. He folded it rapidly into a thick pad, then threw it onto the floor in front of him. Stepping onto the jacket, he immediately removed his undershirt, creating another protective pad that he tossed forward. The crowd murmured as Jack methodically created a path of fabric stepping stones, protecting his feet just enough to make progress across the superheated floor. It wasn't elegant, and it left him half naked, but it was working. Krull had nearly reached the halfway point when the second challenge activated. With a hiss, the pit began to fill with a dense, greenish fog. Jack recognized it immediately: Verdanian nerve gas, non-lethal but intensely painful to most humanoid nervous systems. The Vaughn's respiratory system, however, was specially adapted to filter toxins. Kroll continued forward without breaking stride, while Jack felt the first burning sensations on his exposed skin. Fighting the urge to panic, Jack pulled his remaining sleeve over his nose and mouth, creating a makeshift filter. It wouldn't last long, but it might buy him enough time to think of something better. The gas grew denser, making visibility difficult. Jack squinted through the fog, trying to keep track of both Kroll's position and his own path forward. The heat from below and the burning sensation of the gas were quickly becoming unbearable. Then the third challenge activated, a high-pitched sonic pulse that sent waves of disorientation through Jack's brain. He stumbled, nearly losing his foothold on his makeshift path. Across the pit, Kroll slowed but continued forward, his exoskeletal structure providing natural dampening against sonic attacks. Jack was only halfway across, fighting against 3 simultaneous attacks designed specifically to target human weaknesses. His head pounded, his lungs burned, and he could feel blisters forming on his feet, despite his protective layers. This wasn't a fair test of innovation. It was an execution disguised as a challenge. Kroll had designed it knowing exactly how to incapacitate a human while leaving a Vaughn relatively unaffected. Through the haze of pain and disorientation, Jack remembered something Commander Hodge had told him during his first week on Concordia. When dealing with alien technology, remember that it's designed for alien biology. What hurts you might help you, and what helps you might hurt them. An idea formed in Jack's addled mind. It was desperate, probably stupid, and definitely not in the spirit of diplomatic relations. But then again, neither was this rigged contest. With trembling hands, Jack reached for his multi-tool, still attached to his belt. Every maintenance worker on Concordia carried one, a compact device loaded with specialized functions for station repair, including an electromagnetic pulse generator for resetting stubborn electronic systems. The pulse wouldn't be strong enough to affect the arena's shields or life support, but the sonic emitters, gas dispensers, and heat controls, those were standard equipment, exactly the kind his tool was designed to reset. Taking a deep breath through his improvised filter, Jack activated the EMP at its highest setting. The effect was immediate. The sonic pulse stuttered and died, the heating elements in the floor cooled rapidly. The gas dispensers sputtered to a halt, though the existing gas remained. Kroll stumbled in confusion as the environmental attacks suddenly ceased. He turned toward Jack, mandibles clicking in what could only be outrage. Jack didn't waste the opportunity. Ignoring his blistered feet and burning lungs, he sprinted forward across the now cooling floor, past the disoriented Vaughn, and toward the safety platform. "This is cheating," Kroll bellowed, recovering his balance and charging after Jack. "This is innovation under duress," Jack shouted back, diving onto the safety platform moments before Kroll could intercept him. A tone sounded, signaling the end of the challenge. The arena shields lowered, and the remaining gas was quickly vented from the pit. Jack lay on the platform, gasping for clean air, his body a collection of minor injuries and major aches. Mila approached the edge of the pit, all 4 eyes wide with what might have been shock or admiration. "The human has reached the safety point first," she announced. "The final challenge goes to Earth." The crowd erupted in a cacophony of translated exclamations. Commander Hodge was beaming with undisguised pride, while several diplomats were frantically consulting their cultural advisors about the implications of a human victory. Jack managed to pull himself to his feet, wincing as his blistered skin protested every movement. Kroll remained in the pit, his massive exoskeleton rigid with what Jack assumed was the Vaughn equivalent of stunned disbelief. This is unacceptable," Kroll finally declared, climbing out of the pit with surprising grace for his size. "The human disabled the testing equipment. That is not innovation. That is sabotage." Actually, Mila interjected, reviewing her datapad with all 6 arms working in perfect coordination. The rules specified adaptive response to environmental threats. They did not restrict the methods used to overcome those threats. The equipment was not meant to be part of the challenge. Kroll's translator struggled to convey the layers of indignation in his chittering voice. Then perhaps Commander Hodge said, stepping forward, "You should have specified that in the rules, Ambassador." Indeed, came a rumbling voice from the crowd. A draconian diplomat slithered forward, scales shimmering under the atrium lights. The human demonstrated precisely what was requested, adaptation under extreme duress. That he chose to adapt the environment rather than himself is enlightening. Kroll's compound eyes swiveled between the draconian and Jack, mandibles clicking rapidly in agitation. This proves nothing except humanity's tendency toward destructive solutions. On the contrary, Mila said, her voice carrying the weight of official judgment, it demonstrates the very quality that makes humans unique among our community. They don't simply endure challenges, they transform them. Jack caught her subtle emphasis on transform and suddenly understood why some species found humans so unsettling. Those species evolved to fit their environments, developing specialized adaptations over millions of years. Humans, instead, had spent their evolutionary history changing their environment to suit themselves. As neutral arbiter, Mila continued, "I declare that technician Jack Welker of Earth has successfully completed all 3 challenges. By the terms agreed upon, the Vaughn Empire must formally recognize humanity's sovereign status within the Galactic Concordat." Kroll's exoskeleton flushed a dangerous crimson. For a moment, Jack thought the ambassador might physically attack him. Instead, Kroll leaned closer, lowering his voice to a threatening hiss. "You may have won this contest, human, but you've only confirmed what many species already suspect. Your kind is dangerous. You don't follow evolutionary patterns. You don't respect natural limitations. You change the rules when they don't suit you." Jack met Kroll's compound gaze steadily, too exhausted for fear. "Maybe that's why we survived on a planet that tried to kill us a dozen different ways before we learned to walk upright." "This is not over," Kroll warned, turning to leave. "Today has only proven that humanity must be watched carefully." As the ambassador stormed away, his entourage scrambling to keep pace, Jack felt his legs finally give out. Commander Hodge caught him before he hit the floor. "Not bad for a maintenance tech," Hodge said, helping Jack toward the medical station that was already being prepared. "Though I'm pretty sure you just violated about 17 station protocols by disabling security systems." "Sorry about that, sir," Jack mumbled. "I'll fix it tomorrow." "Tomorrow you're taking a well-deserved day off," Hodge replied, "and maybe considering a career in diplomatic services. We could use someone who thinks outside the box, or your pit, as the case may be." As the medical team took over, Jack caught sight of Mila watching him with an expression he couldn't quite interpret, something between concern and fascination. He raised a hand in weary thanks, and she responded with a formal Arcturian salute, all 6 arms crossing in a gesture usually reserved for equals. Small victories, Jack thought as the pain medications finally kicked in. Sometimes that's all you need. Part 6. Resolution and Impact. 3 days later, Jack stood at the observation deck overlooking Concordia's main diplomatic chamber. Below, representatives from the galaxy's most powerful species were gathered for the Summit of 7, discussing the Quartian energy crisis with surprising civility. His burns had healed quickly thanks to advanced medical technology, though his pride had taken somewhat longer to recover after learning that footage of his half-naked pit dash had become the most viewed entertainment clip on the station's network. "Quite the view, isn't it?" Mila said, gliding up beside him. Unlike most diplomatic staff, she seemed comfortable talking with maintenance personnel. "It's something," Jack agreed. "I still can't believe they're actually listening to Ambassador Sullivan's proposal." Below, Earth's representative was outlining a revolutionary energy-sharing program that would have been dismissed as naive human optimism just a week earlier. Now, even the Vaughn delegation appeared to be considering it seriously. "Your performance changed more than just official recognition status," Mila observed. "It altered the emotional calculus of interspecies relations." Jack raised an eyebrow. "That's a fancy way of saying I scared them." "Not fear, exactly," Mila corrected. "Recalibration." Many species had categorized humans as harmless curiosities. Now they recognize you as unpredictable variables. Jack watched as an enormous draconian diplomat leaned down to hear Ambassador Sullivan's comment, showing a degree of respect that humans rarely received in galactic politics. "Is that a good thing?" he asked. "It's a necessary thing," Mila replied. "The galaxy is filled with ancient species who believe evolution follows predictable patterns. Humans are a reminder that the universe still contains surprises." From the diplomatic chamber came the sound of unanimous agreement. All 7 species had approved Earth's proposal. Jack felt an unexpected swell of pride. "Ambassador Kroll doesn't seem thrilled about our new status," he noted, watching the Vaughn diplomat's rigid posture. "Kroll is traditionally minded," Mila said diplomatically. "But even he can't deny the results of his own challenge. The Vaughn may not like humans, but they respect the outcome of fair competition. It's fundamental to their evolutionary philosophy." "There isn't exactly how I'd describe that test," Jack muttered. "Perhaps not," Mila conceded. "But your response was quintessentially human. When faced with an impossible situation, you changed the parameters. That's precisely what makes your species both valuable and concerning." Jack turned away from the observation window. "Speaking of concerning, I should get back to work. Those environmental controls still need calibrating after my little MP stunt." "Actually," Mila said, producing an official-looking datapad, "I have new orders for you from Commander Hodge. You've been reassigned." Jack took the pad with a frown. "Reassigned? Look, if this is about the equipment damage." "It's a promotion," Mila interrupted. "Effective immediately. You're being transferred to the Interspecies Liaison Office as a technical advisor." Jack stared at the transfer order in disbelief. "But I'm just a maintenance tech." "A maintenance tech who just demonstrated why humans deserve their place in the galactic community," Mila pointed out. "The liaison office needs people who understand both the technical aspects of interspecies cooperation and the creative problem-solving humans bring to the table." As Jack processed this unexpected career change, his communicator buzzed. The station's internal messaging system had been flooded with notifications ever since his challenge performance went viral. Most were from fellow humans congratulating him, but an increasing number came from curious aliens seeking to understand the human perspective. "You've become something of a celebrity," Mila observed. "The smallest human on the station is now its most recognized face." Jack shook his head. "I was just trying not to get my atoms crushed or my species downgraded to cosmic pets. But I didn't plan on becoming the poster boy for humanity." "Few revolutionaries do," Mila said with what might have been an Arcturian smile. "But history is shaped by those who act decisively in pivotal moments." As they walked toward the liaison office for Jack's orientation, they passed through the station's central promenade. Jack noticed something strange. The alien pedestrians, who normally would have walked past humans without acknowledgement, were giving him a wide berth. Some even performed their species equivalent of respectful nods. And near the Promenade Café, a group of Vaughn diplomatic security officers were huddled in conversation. They fell silent as Jack approached, their compound eyes following his movement across the concourse. "Is it my imagination?" Jack whispered to Mila. "Or are they all suddenly treating me differently?" "Not just you," Mila replied quietly. "All humans. Word has spread about what you did in the challenge. The footage has been viewed by nearly every sentient on the station." "Great," Jack groaned. "So I'm infamous now." "Not infamous," Mila corrected. "Respected, perhaps even feared. By some." As they reached the liaison office, Jack paused before the entrance. "I'm still just a maintenance tech who got lucky. I'm not some kind of human champion." "That's exactly why you're perfect for this role," Mila said. "You've demonstrated that even an ordinary human is capable of extraordinary adaptation. You're living proof that humanity's strength isn't in physical prowess or traditional intelligence. It's in your species' remarkable ability to transform challenges into opportunities." Jack considered this for a moment, then grinned. "So basically I'm scary because I'm unpredictable." "Precisely," Mila confirmed. "In a galaxy of specialized evolutionary adaptations, humans are terrifying generalists. You don't excel at any one thing, you excel at becoming whatever you need to be in the moment. As they entered the liaison office, Jack was greeted by a surprising sight: Ambassador Krull, waiting with Commander Hodge. The Vaughn diplomat's exoskeleton had returned to its normal obsidian color, though his posture remained stiff. "Technician Welker," Krull said formally. "The Vaughn Empire recognizes your victory in the Tri-Challenge assessment. As agreed, we have withdrawn our motion to reclassify Earth's sovereign status." "Thank you, Ambassador," Jack replied, trying to maintain diplomatic composure. "I appreciate your sportsmanship." "Do not mistake formal recognition for approval," Krull continued. "The Vaughn Empire maintains that your species requires careful monitoring as it develops further." Jack nodded. "Fair enough. We're still learning the ropes of galactic citizenship." "Indeed," Krull agreed. "However, I have been instructed by my government to extend an invitation. The Vaughn Military Academy has expressed interest in studying human adaptive strategies. They wish to establish an exchange program with Earth's defense institutions." Jack blinked in surprise. "You want to study us? I thought we were just upstart primates." "You are," Krull confirmed, mandibles clicking in what might have been reluctant amusement. "But upstart primates with unexpected qualities. The Empire prefers to understand potential threats rather than ignore them." Commander Hodge stepped forward. "We'll take that as a compliment, Ambassador. I'm sure Earth will be open to scientific and cultural exchanges." After a few more minutes of formal pleasantries, Krull departed, leaving Jack, Mila, and Commander Hodge alone in the office. "Did that just happen?" Jack asked. "Did the Vaughn just classify humans as a potential threat to be studied?" "Welcome to galactic politics," Hodge chuckled. "Yesterday's curiosity is tomorrow's alliance partner. Your little performance changed the game, Welker." "I'm still just a maintenance tech, yes I know," Hodge interrupted. "But you're also the embodiment of why humans are both terrifying and fascinating to older species. We don't play by evolutionary rules, we change the rules." Jack took a seat at what was apparently his new desk, still trying to process the rapid changes in his circumstance. "So what exactly am I supposed to do in this new role?" "Help aliens understand humans, and help humans understand aliens," Hodge explained. "You've got a unique perspective now. You've seen firsthand how galactic society views us, and you've demonstrated why they might want to reconsider those views." "Your first assignment," Mila added, placing a datapad in front of him, "is to develop a presentation for the educational exchange program. The topic is human problem-solving methodologies, a cross-species perspective." Jack stared at the datapad, then burst out laughing. "So I'm going to teach aliens why they should be worried about the cosmic monkeys." "Not worried," Mila corrected. "Mindful. There's a distinction." As Hodge and Mila left him to settle into his new position, Jack turned to the observation window that looked out over the station's habitat ring. Thousands of species coexisting in this massive structure, each with their own evolutionary history, their own specialized adaptations. And then there were humans, physically unimpressive, technologically junior, but possessing that wild-card quality that made even the mighty Vaughn reconsider their assumptions. Jack smiled as he noticed a group of massive draconian diplomats give a wide berth to a human custodian who couldn't have been more than 5'4", the smallest being in the corridor, yet treated with cautious respect. His communicator buzzed with another message, this one from Commander Hodge. "Just official diplomatic reception tonight. Your attendance required. Appropriate attire will be delivered to your quarters. Try not to disable any more station systems." Jack chuckled as he sent a simple acknowledgement. From maintenance tech to diplomatic personnel in 3 days, it was exactly the kind of improbable, pattern-breaking career trajectory that probably confirmed every alien suspicion about human unpredictability. As he began reviewing the materials for his new position, Jack couldn't help but think about Krull's parting words. The Vaughn ambassador had leaned in close, mandibles clicking quietly, and said something his translator didn't catch. But Jack had spent enough time around the insectoid species to understand the meaning. The smallest threats are often the most dangerous, human. Remember that when you represent your kind among the stars, it wasn't exactly a warm welcome to galactic politics. But for a species used to being underestimated, it was something potentially more valuable. Respect. Jack Welker, 5'7" maintenance technician turned into species liaison, smiled to himself. Not bad for the smallest guy in the room.